Darth Vader cut down Obi-Wan Kenobi hunting closure. Instead, his blade sliced through empty robes. No body, no proof, just silence. What followed wasn't a win. It was something the STH were never built to handle. Drawing from Canon and Legends sources, this video breaks down 5 layers of fear, explaining why Obi-Wan's disappearance didn't crush Vader. It exposed him. The clash aboard the Death Star didn't crown him supreme, it cracked his idea of power. This moment shatters the S5th definition of strength as Vader understands it. To him, power isn't spiritual clarity or inner peace. Power is dominance, control, leaving enemies broken and proof behind. If there's no body, no finality, then the victory feels fake, and that rattled him. That mindset traces back to Sith doctrine laid out in the Legends book Darth Plagues. Plagues rejected surrendering to the Force, claiming it was something to be bent, owned, mastered. His obsession with immortality showed how that belief played out. Death wasn't sacred, it was a technical problem to delay or manage through domination. He pushed experiments to stretch his life, micromanaging his body just to keep going. It never stabilized. He couldn't survive without constant interference, and the system kept failing. When Sidious killed him in his sleep, Plagues didn't fall as a conqueror of death. Sith later mocked this contradiction, noting he preached the grand plan above all else, yet still got swallowed by his hunger to live forever, and that hypocrisy echoes straight into Vader's fear. This failure matters because it exposes a quiet flaw buried deep in Sith thinking. Power that has to be constantly enforced can never truly last. 5th-level authority doesn't sustain itself. The second domination pauses, it starts to rot, meaning every victory is temporary by design. Obi-Wan's disappearance didn't just deny closure, it broke the rules. It revealed an outcome that can't decay because it was never forced. Vader carries this same mindset as the Emperor's enforcer. It shapes how he understands authority, how he approaches every kill. To Vader, power only survives if it can be referenced later. Something solid he can point to as proof that dominance actually happened. But Obi-Wan's vanishing on the Death Star smashes that expectation. The Jedi Master doesn't cling to life. He doesn't scramble for control or try to overpower his former student. When Kenobi allows the blade to pass through him, the confrontation ends without confirmation. Vader had ended countless enemies before, and every time the result reinforced his Sith conditioning. This time was different. For the first time, Vader wins without being able to feel it. The duel ends, but nothing closes. Even worse, the reality that the Jedi Master simply fades away leaves no leverage. It can't be repeated, countered, or undone. That's where the first real crack forms, and it rattles everything Vader thought power was supposed to be. What truly scares Vader isn't anything supernatural. It's what the moment means. If Obi-Wan reached something beyond death without domination, then the Sith model of power might be broken. Vader gave his entire existence to a system that promised total mastery in one decisive moment. That promise collapses the instant Obi-Wan is gone. The past doesn't vanish. It loses its borders. Obi-Wan isn't just another enemy on Vader's list. He holds a space no one else can touch. Obi-Wan knew Anakin Skywalker before everything shattered, not as a symbol or a legend, but as a student and a friend. Others remember the Chosen One as a warning or a myth tied to disaster. Obi-Wan remembers someone still forming, still learning who he was becoming. In Lords of the Sith from canon continuity, Vader's discipline is never shown as healing. There's no resolution. Pain isn't something he moves past. It's something he keeps switching on again and again. His identity is reinforced through suffering, not understanding. Because of that, emotional control is a process, not a steady state. Any disruption, especially one tied to his former master, threatens to crack the whole structure. Not because it creates new feelings, but because it interrupts the system that keeps the old ones buried. Vader's stability depends on containment. The identity of Anakin Skywalker is shoved deep into his mind and locked down, but it never disappears. His inner life is built on disciplined rage, not peace. Pain feeds hate, hate feeds strength. Yet even with strict control, memories creep back in, pulling at his focus and shaking the mask he worked so hard to keep in place. Palpatine reacts by labeling this struggle as weakness. To him, Anakin Skywalker must stay dead for Darth Vader to function at all. But instead of quieting Vader's mind, meditation makes the conflict louder. Every attempt to erase Anakin forces Vader to confront how much effort it takes just to keep those memories buried. With Obi-Wan gone, the last external anchor disappears. Vader is left alone with an identity he claims is dead, but has to constantly suppress. Obi-Wan was never just a reminder of the past. His continued existence kept Anakin Skywalker anchored in the present. As long as the Jedi Master lived, Anakin couldn't fully dissolve into myth, a theme explored in the Legends book Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader. Qui-Gon speaks to Obi-Wan as a Force voice, explaining that Vader will never return to Tatooine because the planet still holds his earliest memories. That place is dangerous to him. Being near it would weaken the mental barrier he depends on. Vader's physical strength is undeniable, but Obi-Wan understands the real vulnerability isn't his body, it's the return of his former self. Because of that, Obi-Wan chooses not to confront the Sith Lord directly after Mustafar and remains in exile, as shown in Kenobi. Other Legends stories reflect on Anakin's fall while stressing distance over confrontation. Forcing contact risks, pushing Vader deeper into the identity Palpatine is shaping. Meanwhile, Vader's early service to the Empire reveals something telling. He focuses more on resolving personal threats than advancing Sith doctrine. His actions are driven by the need to silence doubt about his transformation. That pattern makes one thing clear. Eliminating Obi-Wan was never a simple tactical move. It was a psychological trap waiting to snap back. Mentally, Vader needs his identity to feel final. The Emperor's enforcer wants his old life erased completely. That's why removing his former Jedi Master carries so much weight. Rage isn't the only driver here. There's also the hope that eliminating the last living witness will finally let the past settle, something he can shut down forever, even without a body. The duel between the Chosen One and his old master refuses to turn into history. Sith victories are supposed to become fixed points, events that can be cited, referenced, and weaponized. Obi-Wan's disappearance won't cooperate. It doesn't become a past moment. It stays active, unresolved, and mentally present, forcing Vader to relive it, not as a memory, but as a problem that never closes. In the Legends novel Shadows of the Empire, set shortly after the Death Star's destruction, Vader's internal state is described as unusually unstable. He becomes fixated on unresolved threats instead of clean victories. He replays imagined failures instead of consolidating authority. This marks a shift in his behavior, where uncertainty no longer hardens into resolve, it turns into obsessive scrutiny. That instability lines up perfectly with Obi-Wan's unresolved disappearance. Instead of relief, Vader experiences intrusion. Obi-Wan becomes a permanent presence in his thoughts, making it impossible to fully silence the Skywalker identity. With his former master gone, the last barrier collapses inward. Sith conditioning doesn't help. Confusion turns into paranoia. After the duel, Vader doesn't treat Obi-Wan's disappearance as a mystery to solve. He treats it as a threat that refuses to die, and that refusal keeps digging deeper into his mind. Sith training won't let Vader respond with acceptance. It pushes him straight into suspicion. To the Sith, knowledge is a weapon of control. The secrets a master keeps matter just as much as the lessons he shares. An apprentice is never meant to know everything. Gaps in knowledge aren't mistakes, they're maintained on purpose. Those gaps keep power tilted in one direction. This pattern shows up clearly in the Legends novel Darth Plagueis. Plagueis carefully limits what he reveals to his apprentices, offering just enough insight to keep them useful while hiding the deeper teachings. That structure reinforces hierarchy and keeps students dependent, never equal. Sith training is built on one assumption: there is always a final secret, and it belongs to the master alone. While this keeps apprentices obedient, it also breeds resentment and suspicion over time. They're trained to believe that any unexplained power comes from deception, not transcendence. Vader was forged inside this system. Both Jedi and Sith operate with partial knowledge, a point explored in Labyrinth of Evil. But the reason for that secrecy is different. Sith hide knowledge to dominate. Jedi withhold counsel to prevent misuse. Vader shaped entirely by Sith logic, cannot see that distinction. To him, all secrecy equals manipulation. Sith secrecy always implies deceit. Because of that, Vader cannot interpret Obi-Wan's disappearance as surrender. Sith logic won't allow it. It has to be a hidden mechanism, a withheld technique, a deliberate move. Acceptance has no place here. To Vader, every unexplained outcome is a threat waiting to surface. To Vader, there has to be proof that someone, somewhere, is moving pieces behind the scenes. He already believes knowledge was kept from him as Anakin Skywalker. The Jedi Council restricted his access to the Order's deeper teachings, questioned his emotions, and blocked his advancement. That quiet bitterness never faded. It hardened. Palpatine saw that resentment and twisted it to serve Sith goals. Now, Obi-Wan's vanished body reopens that wound. To Vader, it reframes the Council's behavior and casts every Jedi secret as intentional deception. What once felt like neglect now looks like a coordinated lie, and that shift transforms the nature of his fear. Before this, the disturbance lived inside him: disappointment, unfinished memories, a fractured identity. But now, Obi-Wan stops being just a reminder of Anakin Skywalker or a challenge to Sith dominance. Kenobi becomes someone who might possess knowledge Vader never received, something beyond his reach. Either Obi-Wan mastered something the Sith can't access, or Palpatine has blinded him on purpose. Both possibilities are dangerous. Either one forces Vader to question what power actually means at its core. His fear is no longer limited to the past or the failure of one kill. It turns outward, toward Obi-Wan, toward the Jedi, toward the unsettling idea that Sith power isn't as complete as promised. Obi-Wan Kenobi's death aboard the Death Star denies Vader the proof of dominance he was trained to need. No body means no confirmation. In Darth Plagueis, death exists to instruct others, reinforce authority, and erase weakness. That rule carries into the Imperial era. Obi-Wan's disappearance breaks it, and that violation keeps eating at Vader's understanding of victory. In Lords of the Sith from canon continuity, Emperor Palpatine teaches that death must be used as a tool. It demands obedience and submission. Power only becomes real when it's witnessed. A killing without consequence, spectacle, or lesson is wasted effort. Throughout his service to the Empire, Vader enforces this rule with precision. The canon novel Tarkin shows Vader overseeing executions with zero mercy, no pardons, no negotiation. Imperial order is imposed, not discussed. Every body becomes proof that resistance carries a cost. That's the system. But the duel aboard the Death Star leaves behind nothing except empty robes, and that changes everything. Vader sees no fear in his former master's face, no submission to Sith superiority, and most importantly, no corpse. From a Sith perspective, this barely qualifies as a victory. Sith success depends on three things: the enemy's death, witnesses to that death, and the fear it spreads to others. Vader's strike against Obi-Wan only checks one box. The other two collapse instantly. He can't point to the moment, he can't weaponize it. Obi-Wan's exit makes it worse. The Jedi Master doesn't struggle. He stays calm, accepts the moment on his own terms, and denies any visible breaking point that would confirm Sith dominance. To onlookers, the duel just ends. No explanation. Even the stormtroopers rushing in are left confused. Palpatine's teachings in Lords of the Sith stress that power must be performed, not just possessed. A lightsaber strike that leaves nothing behind doesn't echo. It doesn't teach. It dies in the moment, and that failure cuts deeper than any blade. There's no way to use it to inspire terror in future conquests. It can't serve as a warning to rebels deciding whether to surrender or keep fighting. Obi-Wan's disappearance doesn't crush resistance the way public executions once did. In earlier confrontations, violence imposed order. This time, it leaves nothing behind. The Sith Code promises that chains are broken through victory, yet Vader can't find victory when the defeated don't fall. Every layer of reassurance violence once gave him starts peeling away. If killing Obi-Wan brings no finality, then the system that taught Vader how to end conflicts isn't working the way it's supposed to. Fear takes on a new shape here. Not because Obi-Wan escaped death, but because Vader feels empty after delivering it. That unresolved hollow space pushes him toward a breaking point. He starts sensing that Obi-Wan has moved beyond reach entirely. The Sith may still possess power, but Sith power depends on interaction. It requires leverage. It only works when there's something left to threaten, pressure, or break. In Darth Plagueis, Sith control operates through consequences. Power is expressed by exploiting fear, loss, and attachment. A true Sith victory assumes the defeated remains vulnerable even after the duel ends. They don't stop until they find a weakness to force submission. But by removing himself from consequence, Obi-Wan ends the cycle Sith power depends on. By becoming one with the Force, Kenobi slips past every pressure point Vader knows how to exploit. The battle ends with nothing left to coerce, nothing to punish, no leverage, no fear to harvest. And that absence hits Vader harder than defeat ever could. Within Sith belief, the powerful always expect resistance from the weak. Even submission has value because it confirms control. When resistance disappears, that engine loses everything to push against. In the canon novel Lords of the Sith, Vader's strength is shown to be fueled by conflict and pressure, both internal and external. Obi-Wan's transformation removes him from that system entirely. In Sith ideology, extended existence requires control-based conditions to preserve identity beyond death. Sith rely on material anchors, rituals, hosts, artifacts, influence over others. Their awareness persists by deepening dependence on the physical world. Control sits at the center of it all. Obi-Wan's disappearance doesn't match that pattern. In Revenge of the Sith, and later canon material, Yoda explains that Qui-Gon discovered a path beyond physical death. That path doesn't demand domination, it requires acceptance. Vader can't walk it. In Legends material, Obi-Wan consistently chooses patience over escalation. After Mustafar, he understands that Vader's authority feeds on pursuit and conflict. His isolation on Tatooine looks passive, but it's disciplined restraint, long-term control through non-reaction. He reflects on the consequences of every intervention. When action might escalate conflict, he steps back. This isn't fear. Sith power feeds on reaction. By minimizing his imprint on events, Obi-Wan avoids reinforcing Vader's sense of purpose. The Jedi Master's final act on the Death Star follows that same discipline. He denies conflict, the fuel it needs, removes himself from the system entirely, and leaves Vader facing a power structure that suddenly has nothing left to consume. In its clearest form, shown in the Legends book Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader, the Sith Lord's sense of agency is reinforced by constant opposition. Violence answers resistance. Suppression confirms authority. That's the environment where Vader feels real. Obi-Wan's disappearance destroys that structure entirely. The fear isn't about rivalry anymore. Vader doesn't fear Obi-Wan as an opponent. He fears what his former master represents. Kenobi reached a kind of freedom that exists outside Sith logic. Vader understands Sith power can destroy bodies, command armies, and spread fear across star systems. But it collapses when faced with transcendence. Sith power only works when there's something left to dominate. Obi-Wan removed himself from that equation, and that's the real fracture. Not defeat, but irrelevance. If this moment changed how you see Sith power, there's more beneath the surface. A deeper breakdown reveals where Darth Plagueis' philosophy ultimately fails, and how that failure shaped every Sith who followed. And if you want to understand the alternative, the full history of the Jedi shows how surrender to the Force became their greatest strength. If you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one.